Hello book lovers and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today I will be going through my January wrap-up part 1. So I'm gonna try something a little new because the last 2-3 months I've kind of been dragging my feet and dreading doing my monthly wrap-ups just because they always end up being so long, which means that the filming process and the editing process is a little bit of a drag for me. So I know that I often enjoy shorter wrap-up videos from other people, and I know some other people on this platform do prefer shorter videos overall, and my videos are oftentimes a bit longer. So I'm hoping that by doing a wrap up for the first half of the month and a wrap up for the second half of the month, that I'll be able to shorten up those videos a little bit and make this a more enjoyable experience for me, because I used to really enjoy wrap ups, but some of that joy has been not quite there in the last few months. So I'm hoping that with this change, it'll come back. Now, I'm not going to do any sort of stats in this video. I will be doing overall monthly stats in the part 2 of this video. I will probably give you a little information about what I'm currently reading and what I'm still hoping to read for the remainder of the month, kind of let you know where I'm at with my TBR and things like that. But overall, I'm just hoping that by talking about less books, I'll be able to go a little bit more in depth with each book instead of feeling like I'm rushing because I'm trying to not make the video too long. But yeah. So I'm hoping this will go well. This is kind of a trial here. I'd love to know your opinion on what you think about this. And without further ado, I will go ahead and start getting into the books that I read. So far, I have gotten through 6 books. So those are the ones that I will be talking about today. All right, so the first book that I read this month and read this year was His Cocky Prince by Cole McCade. This is the third book in the Undue Arrogance series. It's a group of companion novels, male-male romance with a BDSM theme. In this book, we follow Brendan Lau, who is known as the Prince of Romance. He has been an actor for a very long time. He is now 51 years old and has been given the role of the love interest father instead of her love interest, and he's starting to realize that his career as the Prince of Romance is coming to an end because of his age. On the other hand, we have Cillian, I hope that's how you say his name, and he is a young actor who's been doing really well with indie films and is now taking part in his first major picture feature, where he is playing the role of the young love interest. At the beginning of this book, Cillian is unfortunately approached by the director with a demand, I'll say, for sexual favors, and finds himself in a position where he is in danger of being sexually assaulted, and Brendan luckily comes in and interrupts the situation and decides that he is going to be Cillian's protector from the director throughout this movie, because Brendan is so well known that his fame will go ahead and prevent the director from taking harmful action against Cillian, who doesn't have that fame to protect him. Eventually, Brendan decides that pretending to be Cillian's boyfriend is going to be the best way to protect him. So we do have quite a big age gap between these two. As I mentioned, Brendan is 51 and Cillian is 28, 29. So we have the age gap trope as well as the fake dating trope. When I went into this story, I figured it would be my least favorite of the 3 books. I have really enjoyed the first 2 books of this series. I'm a huge fan of this author's writing, but the trope of actors in Hollywood is something that hasn't really worked too well for me in the past. I'm not a big movie person. I don't really keep up with celebrities. It's not something that interests me. So I did go into this book with rather low expectations. However, I was very pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this story. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. So as I mentioned, these series do have a BDSM theme in it. This story focuses on consensual non-consent, which means that our character, Cillian specifically, wants a sexual experience that simulates the experience of being raped. So if that is triggering for you, of course, stay away from this specific book. The other books have different forms of BDSM, so if you would like to check those out and avoid this one, that's totally fine. I am relatively new to BDSM in books and have never read a consensual non-consent scene before. Actually, that might not be true. I might have read one other, but that being said, I did think that it was relatively mild, so it wasn't anything too harrowing or anything like that. But because of this, he is asking Brendan to help him explore this kink. Since Brendan has decided to be his fake boyfriend, he's, like, hey, maybe you can help me explore this kink that I wasn't able to explore back at home, because he comes from a small town. As I mentioned already, I really do enjoy this author's writing. I think it is really perfect for the type of books that he writes. His writing is very beautiful and sensual, I feel. I feel that it's perfect for these soft romances that have a very kinky kind of sexual undertone to them, and it just really pulls you into the story and really helps build, that tension, that sexual tension between the two characters. I did also enjoy some of the other themes that were being explored in this book. Obviously, we're dealing with some of the sexual assault that is occurring within Hollywood amongst actors, between actors and directors. We are also dealing with Brendan, who has been in the industry for a long time. He was for a long time closeted as a gay man, but was also struggling with being an Asian actor and feeling very isolated for most of his career because he was trying to avoid any harm that he may face from people that look down at him for being gay or for being Asian, and him trying to kind of break that ice around his heart so that he can open up to Cillian. We are also dealing with Cillian, who is a secret prince, which isn't a spoiler because it is called a cocky prince. So Cillian is a secret prince of a small island nation somewhere near Europe. I don't remember exactly where, probably near Britain. And his parents very much want him to take on the role as prince, but he wants to be an actor. So we're seeing him as he's trying to follow his own dreams, despite the fact that his family doesn't take him or his passions seriously. Overall, this story had a great display of character growth. It was very emotional, moving, sexy. There was quite a few humorous scenes as well. I really enjoyed seeing the characters' passion for their acting, which is surprising because, like I mentioned, I don't really care about something like that. So it goes to show how well the author is at just bringing forth the characters' love for what they do and making it so that you can really absorb that love as well. Overall, I would just suggest any work by this author. I really think this entire trilogy of companion novels is truly stellar, and I'm glad that I was able to start the year off with this sexy read. The next book that I read is actually a comic and my first reread of the year, and that is Fence by C.S. Pacat, Joanna the Mad, and Joanna Lafuente. This is volume 1 of their very queer sports comic, We are following a young character whose name is Nicholas, and he is the illegitimate child of a very famous fencer. He has decided that he would like to fence and has been training. However, when he goes to a competition, he is he's very easily defeated by this character who is one of the best fencers in his age group. He eventually gets a fencing scholarship to a private school and is hoping to train there so that he can eventually beat this guy, only to find out that this guy is in fact his roommate. In this book, I would say not too much occurs. It's very much a setup, just letting us know kind of how our character got into fencing, how he's warming up to the school setting. We are currently watching as the fence team is doing their trials to see who is going to be on the actual fence team. Other than that, I would say we're just being introduced to a few of the side characters that are going to be present. Because of that, I only ended up giving this 3 stars. I wouldn't say that it's a bad novel or anything along those lines. It was just, didn't have too much going on with it, so I was a little bit underwhelmed by it. The artwork isn't my favorite. I don't think it's unattractive to look at or anything like that, but I do think that the artwork in the comic doesn't quite look as good as it does like on the cover, so it's a little bit maybe too bright and bubbly for my taste. I don't know, but I didn't 100% vibe with it. I think that as we go along, I'll grow more attached to the characters. And once we kind of narrow down the list of characters that we're hyper focusing on, I'll be able to, feel more attached to them and things like that. But for now, I enjoyed the read. I'm glad that I'm getting into the series, but it was just a little bit underwhelming. For the next book I read, we have another queer novel, a short one, and that is Nick and Charlie by Alice Osman. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, and I would say that this book rated lowly for me, partially because I didn't read the synopsis, so I had no idea what to expect going in, and I did have certain assumptions about what I would be getting, and that's not really what I got. So it's a little bit on me that I was going in looking just for like a fun fluffy time, and this book definitely isn't that. There's obviously fun fluffy moments in here, but it is also a bit of a more emotional read in the story. Nick is getting ready to go to university, and Charlie is struggling a lot with the idea that they are going to be long distance, and is worried that things will kind of fall apart from there. Throughout the majority of this book, we are dealing with a very moody Charlie and a very confused Nick, and they are lacking some very important communication that I would have expected from a couple that has been so close for 2 years. So it was a little strange that they were struggling so much with that aspect of their relationship, but it does lead very much to some emotional conversations because we're dealing with 2 characters that are suddenly coming to the realization that their relationship of 2 years might be coming to an end. I do think that Alice Osman did a really great job of portraying accurate teenage emotions when it comes to the possibility of a long-term relationship ending, of things dramatically changing because high school is coming to an end. I don't know if they're in high school, because does England call their school high school? I don't know what they call it. Anyway, but I think they did a really great job of showing that, time of life for teenagers. But I did miss some of the things that I enjoyed from the comics, such as the side characters. I felt like they didn't play that big of a part in the story. We spent a lot of time in Nick and Charlie's head, and so I did miss those other characters. And it was just a little bit gloomier than what I was hoping for. I know that Volume 4 dealt with heavier topics, so the author was definitely preparing us for a story like this, but my brain was expecting one thing and got something else, and that just left me a little disappointed, which isn't fair to the book. If you love the comics of these characters, then obviously I think you should pick this up, but it just ended up not being what I wanted it to be, which that's on me, but still really enjoyed it. Still had some really sweet moments. This was my first time experiencing Alice Oseman's writing in a novel format, and I thought it was decent, and I could potentially see myself reading some of her other books. I have to admit I'm not overly interested in any of them other than Loveless, but who knows, She's a well-beloved author with a lot of work out there that explores a lot of important topics for young adults, and I definitely want to support that. For book number 4, we have our first audiobook of the year, and that is Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. This is a book I read because of the Vlog Squad challenge. Nick and Charlie is also one of these books. This is honestly a book that I never planned on picking up, but since it was part of this challenge, I ended up doing so, and am very happy that I did, because I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. So in this book, we are following Vanya, and she has stolen the face of the princess. I believe she's a princess. She has a necklace of magical pearls that allows her to look like the princess who she had abandoned at the riverbed a year or two ago, and she has been stealing from the rich ever since. She is the daughter of Death and Fortune, and they have been asking her to choose who she will serve, but she doesn't want to serve anyone, so she's hoping to gather the funds necessary to escape to another land. At the beginning of this book, she steals an item that was provided to a family by one of the local gods, and that god curses her to pretty much turn into like diamonds and pearls unless she returns everything that she has stolen. She quickly realizes that the life she has stolen from the princess is one of those things. Throughout the story, we watch as she tries to find a way to break the curse while also being chased by a young man who is trying to find the red penny thief, which is what she calls herself because she always leaves a red penny when she steals something. I have to admit, I absolutely fell in love with this main character. I have to admit, in the beginning, she wasn't the most likable, and I don't think she's supposed to be, but she very quickly began to grow on me as she tries to right her wrongs, and as she starts to learn more and more about how to be a selfless person. I really enjoyed the found family aspect of this story. At the beginning of the story, she has very much isolated herself. She does not want to ask anyone for help, especially since her mothers have told her that if she asks them for help, that will be her giving up her freedom and agreeing to serve them. So she has very much decided that she needs to never ask for help, otherwise she will be indebted to that person. But throughout the story, people start to gather around her who want to help her on her mission, and she kind of learns to trust them and work together with them, which was just a wonderful, heartwarming experience to read. I also enjoyed this romance aspect of it. It is, a rather small portion of the book, definitely not the main part. It did seem like both characters were on the ace spectrum, specifically demisexual, so I did enjoy seeing a relationship bloom between two people who require just a little bit more interaction between them and their possible love interest before they start feeling, emotions of attraction. I also really enjoyed the banter between the two of them. I also enjoyed her relationship with the princess and kind of watching as the two began to understand each other even more. Throughout the story, we also have a slight mystery aspect that there is someone who is gathering power that they need to stop in hopes of, protecting the country from someone who is using the power of the lower gods in a unsafe manner. Overall, this was just a really fun YA story with, mystery and action and friendship and some romance. It had a little bit of everything. I really enjoyed the writing as well as the narrator of the audiobook. For the last physical book of this, or first half of this month, we have Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the second book to Stalking Jack the Ripper. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I have been having a lot of fun with the story, and that continues with this book. We are following Audrey and her partner Thomas as they attend a school for forensic science at Prince Dracula's old castle. On their train ride there, they find a victim of a murder who has been staked in the heart and had a piece of garlic shoved into his mouth. Later in the story, they also find that one of their fellow classmates has been drained of their blood. So they quickly are on the case to find out who these vampire hunters slash vampires are that are killing people in this town that surrounds the school and people in the school. Once again, I really enjoyed the mystery aspect of it. It really draws you in. In a lot of thriller and mysteries, I just kind of go with the flow and I don't really try to take the clues that the author is giving me and using them to solve the case on my own. But with these books, I very much find myself trying to do that, and it makes the reading experience really fun for me, especially when I get to the end and I can say, oh, I guessed this part, but I didn't get that part right. And I think that the adventure in the story was very creative. Having a mystery set in an old castle with underground tunnels was just a very interesting setting. And I think that the author really took advantage of that and did a lot of fun things with it. I once again really enjoyed our character Audrey. I actually got a little emotional during the story because she was facing a lot of backlash from not just the headmaster, but her classmates, because she is obviously a woman in a field that they do not deem her worthy of being in. And it made me very frustrated on her behalf, but she's very strong and she pushed through, and I think she really proved herself to be a wonderful detective and forensic scientist. So I'm very proud of her. She's a character that I'm thoroughly invested in. I also am very invested in the romance. The love interest, Thomas, is a man of beautiful words. I love the way that he banters with her and teases her and flirts with her. It's honestly rather sexy. So I really enjoy the romance in this story and the way that it developed. I also enjoyed the new characters that were introduced, and I'm hoping to see more of them in future stories. The main reason it didn't get 5 stars is it was a little bit on the long side. So sometimes I thought that things were a little bit dragged out, but overall I had a wonderful time with this, and it is a relatively quick read. All right, and for the last book I'll be discussing today, I finished the audiobook for A Psalm of the Wild Build by Becky Chambers. I said in my Goodreads review that I really struggled to rate this and to give a review on it. I felt like it was very much one of those books that is so meaningful that reading it just once kind of makes you feel like you weren't able to absorb everything. So I definitely feel like this is one of those books where I would probably need to read it again, maybe read it in a physical copy and maybe highlight and make notes, because it is quite a lot of emotion and themes and philosophical conversations put into just like one tiny book. So this review is probably not going to be the greatest, but I'm still kind of in the process of wrapping my head around everything that I read in this book. Pretty much we follow a character named Bex, I believe is their name, and they are a tea monk. They had previously been a monk, a garden monk or something along those lines, where they tended a garden and people would come there and they would relax and things like that. And after some time, they decided that they were no longer happy in that occupation and decided to become a tea monk so that they can leave the city and go from location to location, and people would come to them, let them know their woes, and have a cup of tea with them. After a couple years of perfecting this trade and becoming one of the most well-known tea monks in the area, they find that they, despite, enjoying interacting with people and being good at their profession, are still missing something in their life. So one day, spontaneously, they decide that they are going to head off to an old monastery that is located in an area of the woods that people aren't really supposed to go to anymore. They live in a world where humans have decided the best way to protect nature was for them to live in only very specific areas and to dedicate other areas to be overrun by nature. Humans will do absolutely nothing with that area. And our main character goes into one of those areas in hopes of finding that monastery, because apparently they can hear crickets there. That's kind of the thing that for the last couple years they've really wanted to do, is hear crickets, but they're extinct in many areas. So out they go, and on their first night out there, they run across Mosscap, who is a robot who's been sent by the other robots to see what humans need. From there, we follow Mosscap and our tea monk as they head to this monastery and have different conversations about their life and the life of humans. I'm not going to go too in depth about, their conversations, because one, some of it went over my head. And two, there would be no reason for you to read the book if I told you everything that happened. So some of the main themes are about productivity, obviously, being that humans feel the urge to be productive for the majority of their life. And then we also have the robots who were created to be productive, which makes it seem like the purpose of everything is to be productive and to be happy in your productivity, and to feel like you're bringing something to the world around you. And how much truth does that hold? Do you always have to be productive, or is it okay for you to, decide to do something that you want to do that maybe isn't considered productive? And is it okay to change what you feel makes you productive throughout your life? Considering the world that we live in, I could definitely see why Becky Chambers would write a book with this theme. And it's definitely something that I think some people need to read to maybe improve their own lives. I really enjoyed the conversations that the two of them had together. I really enjoyed the emotions that our main character displayed, the frustrations, the fears, the sadness, the disappointment in themselves. I also enjoyed Mosscap's, reactions to kind of the mundane things in life. He's a robot that's been living out in the woods, and now he's being presented with a human who has knowledge that he never had presented to him before. So we get to see someone enjoy the little things in life while we have another character that is hyper fixated on, you know, the big meaning of their life. So we kind of have the small and the big as they come together to kind of find a balance. So I really did enjoy this book. I only gave it 4 stars. I wish I could give you a solid reason why it doesn't have a higher rating. I did like Becky Chambers' characters and the writing. It might have just been because the story was too short, or if it's on me because I feel like I didn't get everything out of it that I was supposed to, and that left me a little frustrated. But at the end of the day, it's still a wonderful read. I'm really glad that I read it. And I highly suggest it to anyone else who's interested. All right, guys, this video might still be 40 minutes long because I'm talking way too much. But I just wanted to go through real quick what I'm currently working on and what my plans for the rest of the month are. For my current physical read, I am working on The Witch King by H.E. Edgman. I'm about 50% through this book. This is my last physical book that is on my TBR for my TBR game. I am quite enjoying it. It's a 5-star prediction. I don't think it's gonna quite be a 4 or a 5-star, but I can definitely see it being a high 4. So it's a very addictive read. I can easily power through quite a few pages. It's a pretty quick read as well. The audiobook that I'm currently listening to is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I literally just started this while I flat ironed my hair and did my makeup today. So I'm only 10% through that. I don't have too much to say on it other than I was very surprised that the narrator sounds kind of like a old lady, to be honest, which I've never read or listened to a narrator that sounded quite that old. It's not like unenjoyable. I think it's just something that I need to get a little bit more used to. So that was a bit of a surprise, but that is the last book on my TBR that I need to get to, other than my punishment prompt, which is The Beautiful by Renee Addier. That'll be the next audiobook I listen to. I did recently get it on Libby, so it's waiting there for me. Otherwise, physical book wise, I would like to read at least one more chapter of Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I think that'll get me to the 50% mark of this book. I have made more progress in this book than I did in December, but I'm definitely not going to finish it this month. In order for me to stay on track with my goal to read 6 nonfiction books, I do really need to try and finish it by the end of February, but considering I will have read the first 50% in over 3 months, the fact that I would need to try to read the second half in 1 month, we'll see how it goes. I'm enjoying it. It has made me cry, so it is definitely an emotionally draining book, which is probably why I'm working through it so slowly. Otherwise, I still need to read The Silence of the Girls by Pat Baker. This is for Amy's viewer prompt. Amy from A Star Reads. It was to have a family member select a book, so I presented my mom with 5 books, and this is the one that she selected. I'm excited to finally get to it, plus it's relatively short, so hopefully it won't take me too long. I did accidentally extend my Kindle Unlimited. Whoops. On the 8th, I realized I would have had to cancel it on the 7th, so they charged me $10.80, and I am not going to just let them charge me money and not use it. So I'm hoping to read The Veins of Magic by Emma Hamm. That is the second book to The Heart of the Fae. This is a series where I've been on the edge if I want to DNF it or not, so this will kind of be the deciding factor. So yeah, I'm just hoping to go ahead and finally get to that so I can decide if this is a series that needs to stay or if it needs to go. Other than that, if I still have time at the end of the month to get anything more in, I'll probably look at my list of books that are on Kindle Unlimited and select one of those. Don't really have any that I'm prioritizing, but yeah. All right, guys, so those are the 6 books that I have read so far and my plans for the rest of the month. Let me know how your month is going and what books you're still hoping to get to this month. As always, thank you so much for supporting my channel, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!